So Richard Spenser of the self-proclaimed alt-right, which I consider white nationalist, was on the PBS News Hour on December 14th. And based on seeing that, I have some responses to what he said in the form of rebuttal. But in addition to that, I also have some questions because many things that he said created many questions in my mind. As I'm sure that many will see this and respond to it, I wanted to get my rebuttal out there as clearly and as plainly as I can make it. But I also wanted to hopefully get some answers, some rational, well-formed answers to my questions and my rebuttals. So here it is, the PBS News Hour.
The News Hour's PJ Tobia has the story.
Richard Spenser wants to redefine what it means to be American. He's credited with coining the phrase alt-right, adding an intellectual veneer to a racist movement based on a mix of white nationalism, neo-Nazi beliefs, and hard-edged populism.
You can call yourself alt-right. You can call yourself alt-bunny. You can call yourself alt-peanut butter sandwich. But in my eyes, the alt-right will always be white nationalist. That's all they will ever be. So you can call yourself anything you would like. In my eyes, in the eyes of many, because I'm not just speaking for myself, although I can only speak for myself, many see the term alt-right as another way of saying white nationalist.
This country does belong to white people, culturally, politically, socially, everything. We defined what America is.
Richard, America belongs to all of us as Americans, and it's up to all of us as Americans to make America better, no matter who you are. And that's how our country has come to be what it is now. Can you really dispute that?
Last week, he spoke at Texas A&M University.
Look at the history of multiracial nations. It's a history of conflict, it's a history of distrust.
Tempers quickly flared inside the auditorium.
Sit down, everyone.
And Richard, based on what you are doing, you can clearly see that you are utilizing that history to fit your own agenda. And you are utilizing that history to sow dissent, as you can clearly see by the reaction to your incendiary words.
While outside, protesters denounced his message of white identity politics and confronted his supporters. The demonstrators tried to storm the meeting room, but were pushed back by police.
Let go!
During the presidential campaign, Spenser and his followers were a small but vocal pillar of support for Donald Trump. Mostly active online, targeting those critical of the Republican nominee with ugly, sometimes anti-Semitic attacks.
Attacks that Donald Trump, as the Republican nominee for president, never in fact said he wanted to stop. Once he was elected, he came out and very clearly said it. And what many commentators have said, and I agree with, is this. We know how Donald Trump feels about, say, Rosie O'Donnell. We know how Donald Trump feels about the cast of Hamilton. But white nationalists, he is so wishy-washy as you can construe any message from what he has said. He looks at the camera and says, "Stop it. I want you to stop it." Do you think that's really going to stop it? He needs to come out and clearly say something along the lines of, but I'm sure he can make it more flashy, "I am not a part of you. I am not with your group. If you are doing this in my name, you need to stop. And if you do it in my name again, as president, I will hunt you down and I will make you stop. So better to stop it now than to have me have to look for you later." I'm not saying he would say that, but something like that would be a clear-cut message that he does not stand with the alt-right, which are white nationalists.
Media profiles of Spenser followed, focusing on his privileged upbringing, education at elite institutions, and sartorial choices. Then came this event in November, celebrating Donald Trump's election victory in downtown Washington, D.C.
America was, until this past generation, a white country.
It was a forum for the National Policy Institute, a kind of white nationalist think tank Spenser runs. His keynote address ended with Nazi salutes.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory!
The Holocaust Museum, Anti-Defamation League, and others denounced the speech as an anti-Semitic attack. Spenser says his racist provocations are purposeful.
The alt-right has come a long way. Donald Trump as a first step towards identity politics has come a long way. It was a time to be a little outlandish. And so that's why I did that applause line, which was a bit naughty.
A bit naughty? I mean, we're talking about, people are Sikh hiling. We're talking about an ideology that hundreds of thousands of Americans died to extinguish. And it's a bit of fun?
Right. Whenever anyone says that I care about my people, I care about my identity, I want to expand and deepen my identity, the first thing you always hear, and it's become a joke, is, Adolf Hitler, the Ku Klux Klan, the Southern Confederacy. It's these boogeymen that are thrown at any legitimate and genuine movement for identity. And I think at some level, people want to throw them back in the face.
Richard, let's talk legitimate and genuine. There are legitimate and genuine threats to minorities in America. They have existed for decades, and they still exist today. And they will most likely exist going into the future. What you call boogeymen are a legitimate part of American history, and it's a legitimate part of American history that is still a part of America. It still lurks and still preys on people in America. So when you throw that phrase out there, you are giving aid and comfort to them and encouraging them to continue on with what they're doing. The reason why people throw that in your face is because they are calling you what you are. You can deny it, and the more you deny it, the more it confirms what you are. The one thing I will say, Richard, is this. People are not judging you by what they think you are. People are not judging you by what they think you are doing. People are judging you based on what you are saying and what you are doing and what you are supporting by what you are saying and what you are doing, and that is all valid. You cannot defend the indefensible. What you did was horrendous and offensive, and you should have said, hey, it was in a moment, I went a little overboard, I just wanted to get publicity, and here I am talking to you. That basically was your goal, Richard. Just admit it.
You know, a picture of her superimposed in an oven. And you can see the concern here.
It's pixels and words.
And a swastika is just an image. Right. But it's not just an image, man. I think you know that. I'm positive you know that. I think you're just trolling.
I'm not a very good troll. No, look, there is a line to be crossed, and to a point where I won't defend anyone, and that is any kind of imminent, real physical threat of violence.
Richard, imminent and real threats of physical violence are born from pixels, are born from words, are born from people speaking to the darkest part of others, and then sparking a light in that darkness that is nothing more than hate, and it leads them to do things. Anyone with any sliver of intelligence knows that the things we see and the things that people say can lead to imminent acts of physical violence. And that is something that you, either consciously or subconsciously, you are doing that. Just admit it.
Despite Spenser's privileged upbringing and lifestyle, his are a politics of victimhood.
If you're born in 1978 like I was, or 1988 or 1998, you've experienced being a minority, You've experienced, let's say, undergraduate life where you've gone through some, white guilt indoctrination. You've experienced trying to get a job at a major corporation where you know that their hiring is geared almost totally towards not hiring you.
Richard, welcome to my world of pain. Not just mine, but for people like me all over America who know everything is geared toward anything or anyone but them. I don't want you to feel that. I don't want anyone to feel that. I'd like for that to never be anyone's experience, not yours, not mine, and not for those who look like me. I do have a question. Do you speak from personal experience? What have you been denied? What is your story? I'd like to hear your story of how being white has made you, less than, or deprived you. Let's hear your story, Richard.
Those who know white nationalism best say that Spenser's message, newly packaged for millennials in sharp suits and clever memes, are in fact a very old product.
At the heart and at the core of the alt-right, and no matter what they say, it's all about race.
Frank Mink is a former neo-Nazi from South Philly. As a youth, he hosted a cable access show called The Reich. By age 18, he was doing hard time for kidnapping and torture, but left the movement shortly after getting out of prison.
Every bit of it is about race. It all comes from that. And if you even look deeper, it comes from fear. Fear that the white race is losing this country, fear of the Mexicans coming in. It's all about fear. They're losing something.
He says this sense of loss has always been a part of the radical right.
I always hear the same argument. Well, they have BET. Why can't we have white entertainment television? Well, all of television is white entertainment television. So it's like this, they are getting something that I'm not, and everything's being taken away from me.
Mink now coaches youth hockey to steer kids in the right direction. He says if Spenser does have influence in a Trump administration, he'd use it to roll back affirmative action and diversity programs. And Mink doesn't believe that Spenser's Nazi arm salutes are merely ironic.
It's not a joke when there's people whose family members were killed in a Holocaust because of people doing that arm salute, because of people mindlessly just following their hatred and their bigotry and knowing that doesn't piss off liberals. What it does is it scares human beings who care about humanity.
And despite all his high-minded talk of theory and history, sometimes when challenged, Richard Spenser resorts to basic insults.
She's dancing. Perhaps she'll lose some weight.
Spenser's dream is an all-white nation. In the near term, he wants to set up an office for his National Policy Institute, currently run from his home. The institute was established in 2005 with funds from William Regnery II and others. They hold press conferences, publish studies, a journal, and white nationalist blog posts. The Southern Poverty Law Center calls the institute, and others like it, academic racist organizations.
Now we have a place at the table. So that is a major achievement. A lot of that has to do with Trump, obviously. And what I want to do is start to influence culture more directly, start to influence policy more directly, start to influence society more directly. That's going to involve professionalization. That is building real institutions here in the real world.
President Trump, I am begging you. I am pleading with you. I am yelling. Please make it very clear to this guy. He does not have a seat at the table. He is not mainstream. He is not good for America. He is not what America wants. President Trump, please make that very clear to Richard Spenser, because obviously if you have attempted to make it clear, he's not getting the message. So I am pleading with you, President Trump, make it clear that he does not have a seat at the table.
The Trump campaign did not respond to a request for comment on this story. Nonetheless, Spenser thinks America is ready for his message.
The alt-right has gone from a movement that wasn't connected to the mainstream to a movement that's now really connected to the mainstream.
Richard, white nationalists are not part of the mainstream. Even if you do call yourself alt-right, you are not part of the mainstream and should not be part of the mainstream. And the Trump campaign needs to speak directly to you and the alt-right, which are white nationalists, to let them know, no, you are not and will not be part of the mainstream during my administration, and no, you do not have a seat at the table. They need to speak up now, today, this hour.
Richard Spenser has energized a tiny group of passionate followers.
It's about reawakening people of America and get white people to stand up for their roots and to quit being put down by things like Black Lives Matter.
With the election of Donald Trump, racist groups of all stripes are hoping their message will be more widely accepted. But the protests that greeted Spenser and his followers at Texas A&M are proof that mainstream may be a bridge too far for white nationalism. For the PBS News Hour, I'm PJ Tobia in College Station, Texas.
My final words on this is something that I said and that I posted online, and I think that it really matters. Our life and humanity has nothing to do with numbers. Think about it. Numbers will always give you a majority or a minority. Too many people look at the numbers and let it inform their ideals and their humanity and where they think the world should be and where they think their place in the world is. What they fail to understand is that because we are all human, we are all equal no matter what the numbers say. Some say it's not logical, and I say it is extremely logical and worthy of consideration to look at each and every one of us as part of one race, the human race. And within that human race, we will have white people, we will have black people, we will have Asian people, we will have Indian people, we will have Muslim people, and we will have all kinds of people. But the numbers don't matter. At the end of the day, whether your numbers make you the majority or whether your numbers make you the minority, we are all part of the human race. And we know that when we are confronted by an evil, that we all work together to confront and defeat that evil. And we all do it together. There is no minority, there is no majority, there's just us, Americans and the human race. And we all fight as one. We will all live as one, or we will all die as one. And it's very important that we put that message out there that the numbers don't matter. What matters is how we treat each other and how we demand that we be treated. And that's my rebuttal to Richard Spenser. And I just want to say that it's very important that people speak up and let their opinions be known, to give a well-reasoned and thought-out rebuttal to everything that Richard Spenser has to say. You can see in this interview that when he is confronted, he really exposes himself to be someone who has a very narrow agenda, that while it is his agenda and he has every right to it, it is not an agenda that fits the American ideal that we want for our country today. I don't care what happened many, many years ago. I don't care about the inequities that existed many years ago. I care about the inequities that exist today, and I care about the people trying to foster an attitude and an environment where we continue to live in a country of inequities. Yes, there will always be inequities, but do we have to have such a negative, virulent, and sometimes violent strand of what is America have a seat at the table and be at the forefront and to even make policy? That does not make sense. And that's my rebuttal to Mr. Richard Spenser.